In the middle of the roaring stage and red lights blazing like hellfire, stood a bald man with chains in his hands and tattoos covering his entire body. His guitar screamed like a storm, shaking the stage and igniting a sea of fans into madness. He is Kerry King, a figure who embodies power, rage, and unbreakable spirit in the world of thrash metal. For more than 4 decades, King hasn't just played the guitar, he's unleashed raw energy that transcends the limits of extreme music, making him an irreplaceable icon. But behind all the chaos lies a story of hard work, loyalty, and a personality far more complex than the demon on stage image he's known for. Kerry Ray King was born on June 3, 1964 in Los Angeles, California. He grew up in a modest family built on discipline and hard work. His father, an aircraft parts inspector, and his mother, who worked for a telephone company, instilled in him a sense of responsibility and perseverance from an early age. As the youngest of 3 children, Kerry was known as intelligent and curious. He even won a school award for his skill in mathematics. But numbers weren't his destiny. Everything changed when his father gave him a guitar at age 13, hoping it would keep him away from bad influences and give him a positive direction in life. From that moment on, the guitar became both his friend and his escape. At first, King practiced with his father's Gibson ES-175, before finally owning a BC Rich Mockingbird, the guitar that would later become his weapon on stage. He was self-taught, mimicking the styles of his idols like Eddie Van Halen and Glenn Tipton of Judas Priest. The first song he learned was Ted Nugent's Cat Scratch Fever. Simple, but the first step toward a heavier, faster world. King began to realize that the guitar wasn't just an instrument, it was a weapon, a way to fight boredom and channel the rage of youth. During his teenage years, King formed a small band with a school friend, and that's when he met Tom Araya, a bassist with a raspy voice that would later become legendary. They spent hours jamming in garages, playing riffs inspired by Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. That connection became the foundation of what would soon evolve into Slayer, the band that would forever change the face of metal. In 1981, King met Jeff Hanneman, a guitarist who shared his passion for aggressive and extreme music. Together with Tom Araya and drummer Dave Lombardo, they formed Slayer, one of the big 4 of thrash metal alongside Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax. Interestingly, before Slayer exploded, King was invited by Dave Mustaine to join Megadeth, even playing 5 shows with them. But after a few gigs, he declined. King felt Slayer was his home. He said, "I might have thought about joining, but Slayer is where I belong." That decision changed the course of metal history. In 1983, Slayer released their debut album, Show No Mercy, a raw blast that caught the attention of underground fans. But 3 years later, the world of metal shook when they released Rain in Blood, produced by Rick Rubin, now hailed as one of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time. Songs like Angel of Death and Raining Blood became anthems for diehard metal fans. King's fast, razor-sharp, and brutal riffs set a new standard for guitar playing in metal. Even today, countless young musicians cite his style as a foundation of modern metal. Slayer kept evolving without compromise. In the late 1980s, they released South of Heaven and Seasons in the Abyss, showing a more mature side without losing their intensity. While other bands chased commercial trends, Slayer stayed true to their roots. King became the embodiment of that loyalty. He wasn't the type to follow what's popular. For him, metal had to stay loud, dark, and honest. Despite his tough image, King has immense respect for other guitarists. In interviews, he's called Glenn Tipton one of the most underrated guitarists in metal history. He once said, "If you listen to what Tipton was doing in the 70s, he was already playing things no one else was. He's a real innovator." That statement reveals King's reflective side, a true fan who understands the roots of the music that shaped him. As the music scene shifted in the 1990s, many metal bands lost their way, but Slayer stood tall. Even when nu metal took over, King refused to adapt. On the 1998 album Diabolus in Musica, he doubled down with heavier riffs and darker tones. He believed metal didn't need to compromise to survive, and time proved him right. Into the 2000s, Slayer remained a powerhouse, headlining massive festivals and maintaining their reputation as one of the most intense live bands in history. But every great story reaches an end. In 2019, Slayer announced their farewell tour. Many fans thought Kerry King would retire for good, but for a man whose life is built around his guitar, stopping wasn't an option. In 2024, King returned with his solo project, From Hell I Rise. The album feels like a natural continuation of Slayer, filled with blistering riffs and dark atmospheres. Interestingly, many of the songs were written for Slayer before their breakup. King kept them, refined them, and unleashed them in his own name. To form the band, he recruited Slayer drummer Paul Bostaph, guitarist Phil Demmel, ex-Machine Head, bassist Kyle Sanders, and vocalist Mark Osegwa from Death Angel. He deliberately chose musicians around his age, people who understood his mindset. He said, "I want to play with guys who think like me." He also chose to use his own name for the project, not out of ego, but, as he explained, "My name's already known, and it's the most honest way to continue this legacy." Offstage, Kerry King's life is far quieter than his image suggests. He's been married twice and has a daughter from his first marriage. Today, he lives with Aisha King, his longtime partner and travel companion. Despite his fierce reputation, King has never used drugs, a rare thing for a metal musician from the 80s. He jokes that he's just a well-trained drinker. Surprisingly, though many believe his life is full of wild stories, King says he's not interested in writing an autobiography. He said, "There's no big secret to reveal. Everything that matters, I've already said through my music." With a career spanning over 40 years, Kerry King's net worth is estimated at around $12 million USD, earned through millions of Slayer album sales, global tours, royalties, and collaborations with major artists like Beastie Boys, Pantera, and Marilyn Manson. He's also known for his smart investments and collection of custom guitars, including his signature BC Rich KKV with its iconic tribal design and EMG active pickups, a weapon that defines his sound. Perhaps the most fascinating part of King's life is his unusual hobby. He's a professional snake breeder. Yes, snakes. He runs a reptile breeding business called Psychotic Exotics, where he raises and breeds rare pythons and boas. King even calls his collection a little slice of hell, saying the creatures represent the dark beauty that mirrors his music. Despite his touring schedule, he always makes time to care for his snakes himself. Now, after more than 4 decades shaping the sound of metal, Kerry King remains one of the most respected figures in the genre. He's not just admired for his speed or technical ability, but for his consistency and integrity. He never followed trends, never sold out, and never stopped loving his craft. He knows that a true legacy isn't measured by how many albums you sell, it's about the mark you leave on those who come after you. Kerry King is more than a guitarist. He's the embodiment of dedication, fury, and authenticity in its purest musical form. From a humble kid in California to a global stage legend, his life story proves that perseverance can forge immortality. And when the last flames of the stage die out, his guitar will still roar, igniting every metal fan who believes that Kerry King is the fire that will never die.